Part 61. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 601. Wang Feng's heart sank. After learning about this wormhole, the situation of mankind was already very bad. Originally, there was still at least half a year before the Devourer army arrived, but now, this time has already been reduced because of this wormhole. The hole appeared, and it was shortened infinitely. And at such a critical time, Apocalypse has another problem. Are humans destined to be eliminated from this world? Wang Feng felt a chill coming from his back. He tried to stretch out his right hand in disbelief, trying to see if he could summon Tiankai. Ken, looking at Tiankai in his hand, Wang Feng was stunned. Does this mean that Tiankai should not be damaged? And now Wang Feng remembered that after arriving in Nanzhou continent, he had asked Apocalypse to make potions. At that time, Apocalypse did not have any problems. Apocalypse, Wang Feng tried to call out Apocalypse in his heart again, but unexpectedly there was an echo this time. Here. What's wrong? Tiankai asked as if nothing had happened. I just summoned you, why didn't you answer? Wang Feng was stunned. I just went to bed. Tiankai's answer made Wang Feng almost vomit blood. Sleeping? You are just a consciousness, how can you still sleep? Huh? Such a strong energy fluctuation, this is. At this time, Tiankai seemed to feel the existence of the wormhole core, and couldn't help being shocked. Holy shit! This is, the core of the wormhole? It's building a wormhole. What are you doing here? Get out of here as quickly as possible. After hearing Tiankai's words, Wang Feng finally confirmed that number 7 had not admitted his mistake just now. This damn thing was indeed a wormhole core that was building a wormhole. He couldn't help but smile bitterly. Leave? Where to go? Anywhere will do, the further away the better. Just stay away from this damn thing, Tiankai cursed loudly. Hurry to the beach, get on the whale, and return to Dongzhou continent immediately. Even if you are floating on the sea, it is better than staying here. Apocalypse is now just a consciousness and basically will not die. However, the energy tide of the wormhole is too terrifying. He does not know whether his consciousness will disappear under such a powerful energy impact. If it disappears, then it is real death. Shall we leave here and let the Devourer army descend from this wormhole, and then kill us all? Wang Feng looked at the core of the wormhole and said unwillingly. No. I have to find a way to buy time for Chris. Having said this, Wang Feng cast a firm gaze in his eyes, then turned back to number 7 and said, Number 7. Go back to Hurricane immediately, then take everyone out of here, and return to Hope Base immediately. When we arrive, let Duanlei fully support Chris, give him whatever he wants, and break the seal as soon as possible. I'll stay here and see if I can delay the arrival of the Devourer. What? Stay here? Number 7 was stunned, and then looked at the core of the wormhole. This thing cannot be stopped. Even if you want to delay time, you should leave here first, and wait for the wormhole to form before talking about other things. Don't worry about this. Leave now. Wang Feng patted number 7 on the shoulder. Remember, don't worry about anything, just go back to Hope Base. There is a map in the hurricane. You can land directly from Jianguan town. Then ask Chris as soon as possible. Start. Okay, number 7 gritted his teeth, nodded, and then jumped away. I'll go. Do you want to stay here? Tiankai almost cried, can you stop making trouble? The construction of the wormhole is irreversible. There is no use for you to stay here, except to risk your life. Besides, and mine. It can't be reversed? That's because no one has tried it. Wang Feng looked at the core of the wormhole with madness in his eyes. After all, it is made of life energy. I don't believe that Tiankai can't absorb it. Let me chop it first. After saying that, Wang Feng jumped forward and rushed towards the wormhole core. He wanted to try whether he could destroy the wormhole core with Apocalypse. Just as Wang Feng raised Tiankai and prepared to strike at the core of the wormhole, Tiankai already shouted, "Stop!" Apocalypse suddenly stopped 5 centimeters away from the core of the wormhole, and then Wang Feng asked in his heart, "What's wrong? I'll go." Even if you want to prevent the construction of the wormhole, you can't just chop it off. Seeing that Wang Feng stopped and the core of the wormhole did not change, Tiankai was obviously relieved. If I chop it into pieces, the wormhole will naturally not be established. Is there anything wrong? Wang Feng said. Let's not talk about whether you can split it. Even if you can split it, the wormhole will still be established. Tiankai was afraid that Wang Feng would not listen to his dissuasion and still wanted to split the core of the wormhole, so he quickly explained. I have already said that the establishment of a wormhole is irreversible. After the wormhole core appears, it means that the wormhole has been constructed. Now the wormhole core is just a space barrier that stabilizes the wormhole. For example, it's like digging a tunnel. Now the tunnel has been dug out, but the inside of the tunnel needs to be reinforced to prevent it from collapsing because it is not stable enough. After all, this is a space bug that has traveled an unknown distance. Hole. And if you smash the core of the wormhole now, it will not only fail to change the fact that the wormhole has been established, but will also trigger the energy tide in the wormhole in advance, and because the core of the wormhole now contains huge life energy, it is using this energy to reinforce the wormhole. If you interrupt it in advance, these energies will burst out with the energy tide, expanding the scale of the energy tide infinitely, at least destroying this continent, or even directly destroying the planet you are on. It is not impossible. After listening to Tiankai's words, Wang Feng broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't expect that this wormhole was so terrifying, and the energy that burst out could actually destroy the entire planet. But think about it, the wormhole broke through the existence of space. Once it was destroyed, it caused the space to collapse, and the power would definitely not be small. What should we do now? Wang Feng asked. From Tiankai's words just now, he knew that he had a certain understanding of this wormhole, and maybe he would have some way. Tiankai does have a way. Although he cannot eliminate the wormhole, he can slow down the time it takes to build it. However, this method is quite dangerous because the wormhole is still in a very unstable state. If there is any mistake, he and Wang Feng will be submerged in the energy tide that follows, and there will be no body left. Well, no, it's just Wang Feng's body that is gone. He has been dead for a long time. Knowing that Wang Feng will definitely not give up, Tiankai did not persuade him much. Now they are at the edge of the wormhole core, so it is better not to waste time, otherwise when the wormhole core is reinforced and the wormhole starts to connect, they will be dead. Since you have decided, let's give it a try, but you must do everything according to what I say, without making any mistakes. In this way, we can probably have a 1/5 chance of survival. Tiankai sighed and said that since Wang Feng would not leave, they could only give it a try. I hope their luck will be better this time. Now take Tiankai back, and then use your hands to slowly touch the wormhole core. Hearing Tiankai's words, Wang Feng took a deep breath, then put Tiankai away, stretched out his hands, and gently placed his hands on the wormhole core. Be careful, be slow, the wormhole core is quite unstable now, put it gently, don't use force. As Wang Feng moved, Tiankai commanded nervously. Okay. That's it, put it on and don't move. Next, I will use your hands to extract the life energy in the wormhole, but we don't know when this wormhole was built. I just hope that our luck is good enough and it won't be completed immediately. Then, Wang Feng saw that the white mist inside the wormhole core began to flow to the position where his palm touched, but Wang Feng did not feel the influx of life energy in his body. However, it seems that this method is very effective. Originally, when the white mist inside the wormhole core reaches a certain concentration, it will emit a dazzling light in an instant, and then the mist inside it will disappear. This process will appear in a cycle every 10 minutes or so, that is, the wormhole core will light up once every 10 minutes or so. After he put his hands on it, the interval of this process was stretched a lot, and it would be extended by a few minutes each time. After repeating this several times, it would take more than an hour for the wormhole core to light up once. Tiankai. Is this considered a success? Wang Feng didn't know what Tiankai was doing, but since the wormhole core would light up a little longer each time, maybe Tiankai succeeded. In any case, it's better to have changes than no changes, right? Yeah, Tiankai's voice sounded a little nervous. We are lucky. This wormhole has just been established not long ago. It seems that even if we do nothing just now, it will take 10 days for it to truly connect to the other side. So simple. Wang Feng was stunned. Just now, he heard what Tiankai said, and he thought this method was very difficult. In the end, he just put his hands on it. Simple. Tiankai was so angry at Wang Feng that he almost vomited blood. Fortunately, he was only a consciousness now and had no blood to vomit. Do you know that when the wormhole core is reinforcing the space barrier of the wormhole, it becomes less and less stable in the later stages? We are just lucky and came a little early. If it was 5 or 6 days later, it is possible that your palm would just touch the wormhole core, and you would die instantly because of the energy tide without even a chance to feel a trace of pain, and no trace would be left. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 602. It sounds good, at least it's a pleasant death, Wang Feng said calmly. Since entering the apocalypse, he has experienced too many near-death situations, even knowing that he has no chance of survival, so death is not so scary for Wang Feng now. For Wang Feng now, death no longer brings him fear, at most it's just some regrets, regret that he didn't fulfill his dream, regret that he didn't have the ability to save those people in the Hope Base. That's why he can stay so calmly beside the wormhole core that is said to be likely to explode at any time, and his hands are still on it, without any awareness that he has already stepped into the gates of hell. In fact, what Tiankai said is right, Wang Feng and his friends are really lucky. At that time, the Devourer commander, after leaving the West continent, directly gathered all the remaining Devourers and came to the South continent. The Devourer commander, who already has a certain understanding of this planet, chose the South continent just because the creatures occupying this continent are not humans, but mutant beasts. It's not that there are no humans in the South continent, but they are almost all lingering in secret places, not daring to show their heads easily, for fear of being discovered by the mutant beasts. Before the end of the world, the best ecological environment among the 4 continents was the South continent, where there are vast land and sparse population, and countless large-scale original forest parks were built on this continent. The people of the South continent love nature, so they do their best to protect the environment of the South continent, and those ecological parks also try to maintain the most complete appearance of nature, and rarely see traces of artificiality. As for the animals living in these parks, they are not locked in cages for humans to watch, but are allowed to live freely in their familiar environment. The people of the South continent do not participate in the hunting between these animals, and the killing between the same species due to the struggle for control of the tribe, and completely let them live in a wild state. At the same time, the South continent has extremely severe penalties for hunting wild animals. No matter whether the animal you shoot is a rare and endangered species, as long as it is a wild animal, the hunter may face a sentence of more than 15 years. This makes the South continent a real paradise for animals, and because of the protection of the environment, it has also made the South continent a tourist destination on the entire planet. However, it is precisely because of the protection of wild animals that the South continent has become the most difficult place for humans to survive among the 4 continents after entering the end of the world. Even compared to the West continent, the continent with Chris, the madman, the South continent is far inferior. At least, the humans on the west continent can still go out and walk when the sun is sufficient, and they can barely survive. But the south continent does not have such a good environment. Those mutant beasts that have grown rapidly after the end of the world obviously do not know that the reason why their tribes can reach their current size is because of the protection of those humans. Therefore, in their hearts, they have no friendship or gratitude towards humans. They directly regard humans, who have little hair on their bodies, are easy to eat, and have no ability to fight back, as their staple food. At that time, the humans on the south continent had not yet woken up from the nightmare of their own kind turning into zombies. When they rushed to escape the city and tried to stay away from the zombies, they became the target of a large number of mutant beasts. Under the killing of zombies and mutant beasts, the population of the south continent dropped by more than 90% within just 1 month after entering the apocalypse, and the number of survivors was less than 1/10 of the total population of the south continent. This was because the zombies in the city attracted the attention of most of the mutant beasts, which allowed a very small number of survivors to escape and enter the mountains or the wild to struggle for survival. Soon, as the zombies in the city were eaten by mutant beasts, their crisis came again. Because of the lack of food, the mutant beasts began to turn their targets back to the wild and mountainous areas. Especially after the second upheaval, the humans on the south continent had a hard time. Although the thick white fog also had a strengthening effect on the human body, when the survivors of the south continent were ecstatic to find that their strength had become stronger and they had the capital to survive in this doomsday, they would often be entangled by a tree or a few vines around them and lose their lives. So when the devourers came to the south continent, they did not find many humans here, but for them, as long as they were living beings, they would be fine, whether they were mutant beasts, humans, or zombies, as long as they had life energy, they would be their food. Later, after being attacked by Wang Feng and losing his spaceship, the Devourer commander, who felt something was wrong, directly decided that the south continent would be their transfer location. Wang Feng and his men were on the east continent. The west continent might be more dangerous to the Devourers at that time than the east continent. As for the north continent, although it could be taken, it would cost a certain price. Only the south continent was the place most easily occupied by the Devourers. For the Devourer who possesses the life ball, mutant beasts that are not much higher in IQ than zombies are undoubtedly much easier to deal with than humans. And because the life energy contained in the mutant beasts is more abundant, for those who have made up their minds to for the Devourer commander who established the space wormhole, Nanzhou continent is naturally the most ideal place. So, while Wang Feng led his team to Bizhu continent and Zizhu continent, the Devourers killed all the mutant beasts on Nanzhou continent, extracted their life energy, and constructed the space wormhole. As for when Wang Feng and the others arrived, they did not find any Devourers. In fact, it was mainly because the commander of the Devourers was afraid of insufficient life energy. After arranging everything, he also killed all his subordinates. Use the energy to build the wormhole. Because the current Devourer commander, after his companion died and brought the remnants of his kind to the south continent, he finally concluded that the humans on this planet are the kind of creatures that his family has been searching for countless years. At this time, the brood mark on the core of his consciousness directly and automatically activated an order. This was an absolutely mandatory order, and its priority even surpassed the one to find the Prince Li Yingning. That is, once such a creature is discovered, the nest must be notified as quickly as possible. As for number 7, his level is not enough, and his nest mark has been cleared, so of course this command has not been activated. The fastest way, in the understanding of the Devourer commander, is to construct a wormhole and let the brood directly send an army to the planet through the wormhole. It is naturally the fastest way. If that order had not been activated, the Devourer commander would not have done this, because no matter which planet the Devourer visited, it was all about plundering life energy, and building a space wormhole would undoubtedly consume a lot of life energy. Doing equal is not worth the gain. But obviously this planet is different. They are looking for this planet, and the humans on this planet, not for plunder, but for destruction, complete destruction. Even this planet needs to be wiped out and completely dissipated in this universe when they leave, let alone the creatures on this planet. Therefore, in order to ensure that the wormhole can be constructed successfully, the Devourer Commander will sacrifice all his subordinates to become the energy to build this wormhole. And due to the suppression of the brood mark, he is also doing this. There was no resistance at all. Although due to the distance, the Devourer Commander cannot communicate with the mother nest in real time through the mother nest mark, he can completely locate the current location of the mother nest through this mother nest mark. After seeing the wormhole core appear, the Devourer Commander, who was left with only the Bear Commander, finally breathed a sigh of relief. The appearance of this spherical crystal proved that the wormhole he constructed had been successful. After that, he only had to wait for the arrival of his own kind. And then told them about the situation on this planet. His mission was almost completed. It is precisely for this reason that the Devourer Commander did not stay here, but ran away, quite far away, because he knew that when he built this wormhole, he might have used too much life energy. Much more. When the wormhole is stabilized and connected to the other side, the remaining life energy may make the energy tide of this wormhole relatively violent. The Devourer Commander believes that he will stay and explain the situation here to his kind. So of course you can't let yourself be carried away by this energy tide. In addition, Commander Devourer is also very relieved about the current Nanzo continent. He is not afraid that after he leaves, this place will be destroyed by other creatures, because he has already commanded his subordinates to completely sort out this continent. Once again, they did not let go of even some mutated plants with too strong vitality, so now in Nanzo continent, he should be the only creature that can move freely. What the Devourer Commander didn't know was that when he left with confidence, Wang Feng and the others had just met Fang Jiaojiao at sea. This may be the reason why human life should not be cut off. If Fang Jiaojiao had not pursued Wang Feng out of reluctance, if Wang Feng had not been forced to come to the South Continent to reorganize himself due to the self-destruction of the shark swarm, and if Wang Feng had not been unwilling, jump up on that tower and watch. Then, maybe in about 10 days, countless armies of devourers will appear on the South Continent, and at that time, the countdown to the destruction of mankind will officially begin. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 603. Now it seems that Wang Feng's luck is quite good. When they came here, the Devourer Commander had just left, and the energy fluctuations in the wormhole core had not yet reached such a violent level, so Apocalypse could easily start absorbing energy. If they came earlier, the wormhole had not yet formed, and the wormhole core would naturally not emit light, and Wang Feng might not have noticed this place. If it was a few days later, the wormhole core would be in an extremely unstable state due to the excessive life energy input by the Devourer Commander. In that case, Apocalypse's absorption would likely detonate the energy tide in advance, and Wang Feng would not have to worry about the Devourer in the future, because he would be wiped out in an instant, without even a trace left. This situation lasted for 4 hours. Since he didn't know that the Devourer Commander was the only Devourer left in the entire South Continent, Wang Feng had been paying vigilant attention to the surroundings. In his imagination, the Devourer should appear here at any time. According to his current state, once he is besieged, he may trigger the energy tide in advance. It doesn't matter if he dies, but if the wormhole is connected in advance, it will mean the destruction of this world. It will take at least 4 or 5 days to reach the East Continent from the South Continent, even if the whale swims fast. In addition, it will take time for Chris to study and experiment to capture the primate mutant beast. No matter what, Wang Feng needs to stay here for at least 20 days to a month before humans have a chance to fight against the Devourer army. However, no matter how much Wang Feng thinks, it feels that the devourer will not come here once in such a long time, so Wang Feng is a little anxious now. In fact, Wang Feng's idea is completely redundant. The devourer has run far away now. If he doesn't feel the fluctuation of the energy tide, he will not be able to come back. He was afraid that he would be unlucky and that an energy tide would occur just after he arrived here. He would not even have a chance to escape, especially since devourers are very sensitive to energy fluctuations. Not to mention here, even in other continents, the devourer commander would definitely be able to feel the energy tide caused by the moment the wormhole was connected. So now the devourer commander is in a cave in a mountain hundreds of kilometers away from here, resting his eyes and waiting for the wormhole to be built. Unfortunately, Wang Feng did not know the situation, so after another 2 hours, Wang Feng could not sit still. He communicated with Tiankai directly in his mind. Tiankai, is this the only way to delay the complete formation of the wormhole? What else do you want? Tiankai replied unhappily, I only know this method to safely delay time. It can safely delay time? It means, do you know some unsafe methods? Hearing Tiankai's answer, Wang Feng's eyes suddenly lit up and asked quickly. Tiankai was almost choked to death by Wang Feng's words. How could he take the initiative to ask for an unsafe method? Why didn't he notice that Wang Feng had a tendency to self-abuse before? Yes, Tiankai thought about it and really came up with a method. In fact, even if he thought of a method, he didn't want to say it out loud, because he knew that once he said the method, Wang Feng might want to try it. If something unexpected happened, not only Wang Feng, but also he would be buried with him. However, Tiankai was very clear about the current situation. He also didn't know that the devourer commander actually sacrificed all his men in order not to fail. So of course, Tiankai knew Wang Feng's concerns. He also felt that perhaps within a few hours, many devourers would appear around them, especially since Tiankai himself knew devourers quite well. He knew that as long as the devourers found them, they would definitely rush over to stop them. According to the devourers' ugly style of not fearing death once they received a forced order, I'm afraid they wouldn't have any big concerns about fighting here. Now the wormhole has been successfully established. Even if their fight triggered the energy tide in advance, at most the space barrier of the wormhole is not very stable, and there may be accidents when the devourer passes through the wormhole. But the devourer is not a human, and the mother nest will not care about the lives of these guys, so the energy tide is triggered in advance. It seems that the only one who regards this as a crisis is Tiankai himself, and even Wang Feng does not seem to care much about this. Wang Feng now just wants to delay time for Chris, or for mankind. As for his own safety, he has no time to consider it now. So after thinking about it, Tiankai found that no matter what he did, his final outcome would most likely be that he would lose consciousness due to the triggering of the energy tide. After realizing this, Tiankai finally gave up. Since it must come, it is better to let it come earlier, so that he will not be worried all the time. Therefore, this is how he easily said the unsafe method. Do you see those energy blocks on the ground? Tiankai said, there is another method. If it succeeds, it will be very fast and will also delay the actual connection time of this wormhole by at least 1 month to 40 days. Tell me about it. Wang Feng's eyes lit up. This wormhole core is currently in the process of strengthening the wormhole space barrier, and these energy blocks in the ground are the materials it uses to strengthen the wormhole. Apocalypse began to explain. The speed and strength with which it reinforces the space barrier is related to the quantity of these materials. In other words, if you reduce the number of these energy blocks, the reinforcement speed of the wormhole core will slow down. I think there should be a but, right? Wang Feng asked. But there are 2 problems here. One is that when taking away the energy block, you must ensure that there are no excessive energy fluctuations in the surroundings. Otherwise, the wormhole core will know that its energy is being plundered, and will speed up the reinforcement of the worms. The speed of the hole. Tiankai said, after all, the core of this wormhole is composed of a large amount of life energy. Although there is no consciousness, there will still be some instinctive reactions of living creatures. Wang Feng nodded to express his understanding, and then asked, what is the second question? The second one is the remaining energy. You can't take away all the energy blocks. You must leave some for the wormhole core, and it can't be too little, because if the remaining energy is too little, the wormhole core will think the reinforcement process has ended, triggering an energy tide ahead of schedule. I'll go. Why is it so troublesome? The core of this wormhole is a child with a bad temper. If he is not satisfied, he will give up, right? Wang Feng said depressedly. Third, Tiankai continued. Wait a minute, Wang Feng quickly interrupted Tiankai, didn't you just say that there are two questions here? What does the third mean? The third one is not a problem. It's a big trouble, Tiankai said. Did you see the patterns engraved on those energy blocks? When you collect these energy blocks, one cannot directly use me to absorb it. You must put this energy block into the space to ensure that there will be no strong energy fluctuations around you. The other thing is that when you put away these energy blocks, you must make sure that the patterns on them do not flicker, because if the patterns are flickering, it means that the core of the wormhole is absorbing the life in this energy block. Energy. Did you see the white mist inside the wormhole core? That is the life energy in this energy block. If you put away the energy block when the pattern is flashing, it will interrupt the energy supply of the wormhole core. As for the consequences, I know. It will just give up and the two of us will be dead. Right? Are there four more? Wang Feng knew the consequences without Tiankai finishing his words this time. Anyway, he knew it now. Basically, if any mistake or accident occurs, you will die instantly. It's his grandma's fault. This thing really wasn't done by humans, Wang Feng muttered depressedly, but the bad news was finally over, and Tiankai did not continue to say anything. Then let's start now, Wang Feng asked tentatively, is it okay if I take my hands off this thing now? Well, I have stopped absorbing it and can take it away, Tiankai replied. If I had known you would choose this method, I wouldn't have wasted so long just now. You didn't mention this method just now, Wang Feng said. He and Tiankai were just talking because they both knew that the next work might wipe them out at any time. If you chat for a while longer, you may not have another chance in the future. After taking a deep breath and calming down his emotions, Wang Feng began to carefully collect the energy blocks on the ground. Only when he actually started collecting, Wang Feng realized how exciting this work was. Although he was already prepared to be swallowed up by a sudden energy tide at any time, every time he picked up an energy block, it was equivalent to walking around a gate of hell. This kind of excitement was really not something that ordinary people could bear. That's why some people say that real death is not terrible. What is terrible is the moment when you know that death is about to come. And for Wang Feng, he has been experiencing this moment now. Picking up the energy block, putting it away, picking up another piece, and putting it away again, Wang Feng kept repeating this action, and just when he was getting used to himself and being shrouded in the shadow of death, an accident happened. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 604. Wang Feng was unlucky. When he picked up the energy block, the pattern on it had not yet flickered, but the moment he put the energy block away, the pattern on it suddenly flickered. The wormhole core actually selected this energy block at the moment when Wang Feng put the energy block into the apocalypse space, and began to absorb the life energy inside it. Wang Feng had no time to react at all. The energy block had been put into the apocalypse space by him, and the connection between the wormhole core and the energy block was instantly cut off. Damn, Wang Feng was shocked and hurriedly looked at the wormhole core. At the same time, a figure rushed to the wormhole core with great speed, and then put one of his hands on it. The originally stagnant white mist began to spread again after the figure put his hand on the wormhole core, and the wormhole core also returned to its previous state. Number 7, Wang Feng looked at the figure that suddenly appeared in astonishment and shouted, "You didn't leave." Since number 7 didn't leave, then Chris and the others, of course, didn't leave either. Did something unexpected happen again? Wang Feng quickly looked at number 7 and found no traces of fighting on him. However, number 7 is a devourer. Even if he has fought, it is estimated that there will be no traces left. At the beginning, this guy was blown off half of his body by the self-explosion of the White Shark group, but he still recovered like nothing happened. Seeing Wang Feng's eyes, number 7 knew what Wang Feng wanted to ask, so he shook his head gently and said, "No accident, they have left, I just want to come back to help." It turned out that number 7 unexpectedly met Qiu Jian on the way back, because Chris suddenly remembered that there was a unique mineral deposit in the South Continent. If he could get some, it would be very helpful for his experiment. So Qiu Jian left Qian and Qingxun to protect them, and went out to look for them alone, but happened to meet number 7 who was returning. After meeting Qiu Jian, number 7 told Qiu Jian what happened before, and asked him to return to Hurricane immediately, and then immediately take everyone away and return to Hope Base. Qiu Jian heard that the situation was urgent, and originally planned to let number 7 go back to take people away, but number 7 directly told him that if he returned, he should be able to help Wang Feng a little. As for Qiu Jian, he could only watch the fun there. His devouring attribute could not be used at all in the matter of the wormhole core. You can't let him directly activate the destruction attribute and destroy the wormhole core directly, right? In the end, Qiu Jian had to return and prepare to take Chris and others away and return to the Hope Base. And number 7 himself went back directly. Although number 7 didn't know as much about wormholes as Apocalypse, he was better than Wang Feng, who had never even seen a wormhole. Just arrived here, he happened to see the energy block that Wang Feng put away. Number 7 certainly knew what the flashing lines on it meant, so without the slightest hesitation, he rushed over and replaced the energy block with himself, and sent the life energy in his body to the wormhole core. Fortunately, number 7 is a devourer, and there is basically no difference between the life energy in his body and the energy block. In addition, the scope of this small square is only 1 kilometer in radius, and number 7 reacts quickly, so the energy transmission is only stagnant for a very short time, and the wormhole core returns to normal. Okay. Now I will stabilize the wormhole core, you continue your work. Number 7 looked at Wang Feng, and then looked at the wormhole core next to him, and a look of relief appeared on his face. Then number 7 squatted down, pressed his other hand on the energy block on the ground, and said again, "You can speed up the speed of collecting energy blocks. Now all the energy blocks will not flicker. Before I let go, the wormhole core will not change the energy source." Looking at number 7, Wang Feng nodded gently and began to continue collecting energy blocks. When number 7 said this, Apocalypse did not refute, but sighed and said, "Do as he says." Then there was no sound. Okay. Almost done. When Wang Feng collected almost 2/3 of the energy blocks on the square, number 7 spoke again, "Just collect 5 more, no more." Wang Feng collected 5 more energy blocks as he said, and looked at number 7 with some surprise. Isn't number 7 a much lower level devourer than Apocalypse? How come he knows so much about this wormhole core? Even Apocalypse doesn't know how many energy blocks should be left, but when it comes to number 7, he knows exactly how many energy blocks. Looking at Wang Feng's questioning eyes, number 7 suddenly smiled, then stood up, but he didn't move his palm on the wormhole core. Now the remaining energy blocks are just barely enough for the wormhole core to reinforce the entire wormhole. This process has been delayed for a lot, it should be more than 45 days. When saying this, number 7 looked unusually happy, as if what he was experiencing now was the best moment of his life. How do you know? Wang Feng said. It's not that he didn't believe number 7, but this matter was very important to him and to mankind, and he had to know the reason. No need to ask. He is right, Tiankai sighed again. He is now transferring his energy to the wormhole core, and his consciousness has also been connected to the wormhole core. No one in the world can surpass him in his understanding of this wormhole. Since he said it would take more than 45 days, it would definitely not be less than a day. Didn't I put my hand on it just now? Why can't you connect to the wormhole core? Wang Feng asked in his heart. We just absorbed the energy of the wormhole core, and he is now transferring energy to the wormhole core. These are two completely different concepts. Okay, Tiankai replied. Forget it. Don't worry about it for now. Since the mission is completed, let's leave, Wang Feng said. By the way, if the Devourer comes back, it won't speed up this process, right? Unless they can find more life energy and connect their consciousness to the wormhole core like this number 7, otherwise, it is impossible. Moreover, this situation will not happen now, you can rest assured. Tiankai's answer made Wang Feng feel relieved. Number 7. Let's go. We can leave, Wang Feng waved to number 7. You go first, I'll study this thing again. Number 7 did not leave, but waved to Wang Feng with a smile, with a trace of reluctance and memories in his eyes. Study it, Wang Feng was stunned. That's right. You go first, don't worry about me, this is made by the Devourer, I'll take a closer look, maybe it will be good for me. Number 7 continued to smile and said, you hurry back, maybe you can catch up with them, I'll go back in a few days, anyway, I can't help much even if I go back to Hope Base, it doesn't matter if I'm late. Okay. I'll go back to Hope Base and wait for you. Wang Feng nodded, then took another look at the wormhole core, frowned and said, Number 7. You must be careful, you must leave before the energy tide starts, otherwise even if you are a devourer, you can't resist it. I know this better than you. You hurry up. Why are you a little nagging? Number 7 frowned and said. Okay. Then you can do it yourself, I'm leaving first. Wang Feng nodded, looked at number 7 again, and then left. Number 7 quietly looked at Wang Feng's departing back, with a very complicated look in his eyes, with regret, relief, reluctance, nostalgia, and longing. When Wang Feng's figure completely disappeared, number 7 sighed, looked up at the sky, and stared at the vast sky. Number 7 told Wang Feng that he wanted to stay and study the wormhole core, just to let Wang Feng leave by himself. In fact, number 7 knew in his heart that even if he wanted to leave now, he couldn't. Since he just took over the energy block that Wang Feng had put away to deliver life energy to the wormhole core, he is now equivalent to an energy block, constantly replenishing life energy to the wormhole core. Before the life energy in his body is completely absorbed, the wormhole core will not be transferred to the next energy block, that is to say, number 7 is destined to die here. Of course, number 7 can actively cut off his connection with the wormhole core, but that can only lead to an energy tide. Number 7 will still be swallowed by the energy tide, and the space wormhole will be completed ahead of time. Number 7 will certainly not do that, and in order to thoroughly understand the state of this wormhole, number 7 also actively connected his consciousness core to the wormhole core when inputting energy just now. This is how number 7 can clearly know how many energy blocks to leave, which is the most appropriate, neither causing too little energy nor delaying time to the maximum extent. In fact, when number 7 came back, he did not intend to sacrifice himself, he just wanted to help, but when he came here, the situation was critical, he had no time to think about it, and only after he reacted did he think that he seemed to be directly here. However, he did not choose to tell Wang Feng all this, because he knew that even if he told Wang Feng would have no way, and the wormhole core could not switch to the next energy block before absorbing all the energy in his body. And if he actively switched, it would immediately trigger an energy tide, which is a dead end. At least, for number 7, it was a dead end. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 605. Wang Feng naturally didn't know about No 7's situation. Although he also felt that No 7's eyes seemed a little wrong, Wang Feng had never been interested in studying men's eyes. After leaving number 7 and the wormhole, Wang Feng quickly rushed to the location of Hurricane, and even launched several gusts to increase his speed. However, Wang Feng chased them all the way to the beach where they landed, but he didn't see Hurricane and Qiu Jian and others. Looking at the turbulent sea in front of him, Wang Feng completely knew what it meant to sigh in despair. Although he is very strong now, he still has some concerns about crossing the ocean. Not to mention the mutant beasts in the sea. Just at his speed, it would take at least a week to cross the sea and return to the East continent. 1 week, relying on his own ability, drifting in the sea, no. It's not drifting, it's swimming desperately. To swim in the sea for a week, Wang Feng feels very stressed. But there is no other way now. Not to mention that there is no ocean-going ship nearby. Even if there is, Wang Feng will not drive it. It is true that he is a Special Forces soldier, but Special Forces soldiers are not good at everything. After a heavy sigh, Wang Feng still took out the tablet and confirmed the direction of Dongzhou continent. Then he plunged into the sea helplessly and swam towards Dongzhou continent. Although delaying the formation time of the wormhole is considered a success, it is only more than 40 days after all, which is a long time after what he thought before, the time for the Devourer to descend, so Wang Feng will certainly not waste time now. However, it is unlikely to catch up with the whale. Wang Feng just wants to return to Dongzhou continent as soon as possible and do what he wants to do. At the beginning, he told number 7 to let them land directly from Jianguantown because it is the closest sea area to Hope Base, but now it has changed to him, and he does not target Jianguantown. After all, whales are marine mutants, and their speed in the sea is far faster than Wang Feng's. Not to mention that his wind cannot last long. Even if it can be used all the time, the effect is very limited in the sea. Humans are land creatures, without the streamlined body, nor the tail that can be used to accelerate in the water. Fortunately, as a Special Forces soldier, Wang Feng can swim even though he can't drive a ship. Try to move towards the East continent at the fastest speed. Fortunately, Wang Feng can maintain this fastest speed in the sea. After all, he doesn't need to activate his superpowers, and the supplement of Apocalypse is enough to consume his physical strength. After swimming in the sea for 2 days, Wang Feng is no longer in the mood to calculate how long it will take to reach the East continent and return to the Hope Base. No matter who he is, in the boundless sea, in the monotonous scene where the sea and the sky are always the same color. Even staying there for a day is enough to make some people with weak minds collapse. Fortunately, Wang Feng had experienced even more cruel scenes in the underwater passage. Now at least he can see the sunrise and sunset, and hear the waves and the wind. But what surprised Wang Feng was that Tiankai began to remain silent after leaving the wormhole. Even if Wang Feng took the initiative to ask him some questions, he was indifferent, which seemed a bit abnormal. I say Tiankai, what happened to you during this period? Is it menopause? Wang Feng began to talk about nothing. After these 2 days, he wanted to prove that he was not the only one in this world. I'm wondering, what kind of person are you? Why can you make the Devourer, who has no human emotions at all, do such a thing this time? Tiankai did not ignore Wang Feng's question, but answered a sentence that made Wang Feng a little puzzled. Devourer? What kind of action? Wang Feng's brain was a little slow because of the monotonous scenes in the past 2 days, and Tiankai's answer was irrelevant, so he didn't react. However, Tiankai didn't directly answer Wang Feng's question, but just sighed softly in Wang Feng's heart. Devourer, action, what kind of person am I? Wang Feng tried hard to connect these keywords in his mind, and then his body suddenly stopped moving and stopped. Number 7. You are talking about number 7, Wang Feng finally recalled the abnormal look in number 7's eyes when he left. Wang Feng dared to bet that he had never seen that look in number 7's eyes before. Tiankai. Is there any trouble with number 7? Wang Feng asked in his heart. This shouldn't be a problem for him, Tiankai seemed to answer subconsciously, because after a while, that is, the 45 days he told you, he won't have any trouble. But this may be a good thing for him. At least, he doesn't have to worry about seeing the mother nest anymore, Tiankai said with some emotion. What? Wang Feng suddenly felt his hands and feet cold. You mean, number 7 didn't leave with me at the beginning, not because he didn't want to, but because he couldn't? Of course, Tiankai sighed softly, he was regarded as an energy block by the wormhole core at that time. How could he let him go without absorbing all his life energy? Then he is now. Wang Feng's voice was trembling. It has been 2 days since he left number 7. I'm afraid number 7 has been killed by the wormhole core now, right? Wang Feng knew the devourers quite well, especially number 7. In the Hope base, number 7 might be considered a high-level combatant, but in Wang Feng's group, he was not that outstanding. Although the existence of Zhang Ruhao prevented number 7 from being at the bottom, due to his special way of improving his strength, the fighting abilities of Xiao Wu, Qiu Jian, and others have long surpassed him. When the group of white sharks self-destruct, number 7 was the first to recover, just because of his special body structure. If it was a one-on-one confrontation, at least Qiu Jian could kill number 7 instantly with one sword. In addition, number 7 has always been taciturn, so he seems a bit unknown in this team, but no matter what, he has been in contact with Wang Feng for such a long time, and after the agreement between Wang Feng and him was completed, there was no he followed Wang Feng under any conditions, giving silently. He is still alive now, Tian Qi replied in a positive tone, although he cannot enhance his strength by absorbing life energy, nor can he strengthen his body by devouring other creatures. But in the original situation, he could absorb the energy blocks around him to offset the life energy absorbed by his body by the wormhole core. So he is definitely still alive now, but he won't live much longer. The 45-day period he mentioned is the time for the wormhole to be fully formed, and it is also his remaining life. Wang Feng immediately wanted to turn around and swim back to Nanzhou continent to help number 7. You want to go back and save him? Tiankai's voice sounded again. Nonsense. I don't have the habit of abandoning my comrades, Wang Feng said. As a soldier, I don't care who number 7 has been or what he has done. As long as he fights side by side with me, he is my comrade. I will not drop him under any circumstances. Even if you can go back, what can you do? Tiankai suddenly became angry. Do you know why number 7 concealed you and didn't tell the truth? It was because of your character. A personality like yours may make your friends think you are trustworthy, and even make number 7, the devourer, willing to sacrifice his almost infinite life for your goal. Apocalypse did not say what number 7 is for the continuation of humanity, because as a devourer, he can understand no 7's mood. Perhaps among the entire human race, number 7 only cares about Wang Feng and the members of the special team. As for other humans besides them, in the eyes of number 7, they are still just food, so it is impossible for number 7 to risk his own life for food. Although there is a saying that birds die for food, but what the hell, a bird, not a devourer. The reason why number 7 was able to rush forward without hesitation and use his own life to resolve the crisis was probably because the human being standing in front of him was Wang Feng. No one knows no 7's current situation better than Apocalypse. As a devourer, Apocalypse certainly knows that even if Wang Feng goes back, there is no way to save number 7. When number 7 puts his palm on the wormhole, the core, and inputting life energy into it, has already determined the outcome of number 7. Apocalypse's roar made Wang Feng stop his body again. He held his hand tightly, and his face was a little distorted. He thought about it carefully. If he went back, it would indeed not have any effect. And number 7 is just a devourer, not a human being. Could Wang Feng give up the entire hope base, or even the entire human race, for this devourer? He also knows now that number 7 is sacrificing himself to buy time for himself and mankind. When a tidal wave of energy bursts out, at the moment when the wormhole is formed, number 7 will bid farewell to the city forever. Wang Feng's body is constantly trembling in the sea water. He can't make any decision now. Although he also knows that the most correct choice for him now is to turn around immediately and continue his journey. In this way, human beings, only then can there be hope for continuation. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 606. Just when Wang Feng was hesitating, a voice came, "Brother Feng." Looking in the direction of the voice, a great white shark was riding the wind and waves, swimming towards him. On the back of the great white shark, there was a person sitting, and it turned out to be Xiao Wu. In fact, the great white shark was very close to Wang Feng at this time, but because Wang Feng was confused just now, he didn't notice it. Although Tiankai sensed it, he could naturally distinguish Xiao Wu's life fluctuations, so he didn't remind him. Wang Feng was overjoyed to find that Xiao Wu was still alive, and hurried to meet him. When they were face to face, Wang Feng threw a bottle of medicine to Xiao Wu without saying a word, and said, "Drink it quickly." Xiao Wu looked a little embarrassed at this time. The left half of his body below the chest had disappeared. Judging from the wound, he had recovered a little. I guess he must have looked even more miserable at that time. Xiao Wu took the potion, bit the bottle cap with his teeth, and drank the potion. The moment he drank the potion, his body repair speed suddenly accelerated, and the disappeared body slowly grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. What Wang Feng threw to Xiao Wu was naturally the source of life. When he saw Xiao Wu, Wang Feng asked Tiankai to get a bottle of the source of life. With this, Xiao Wu should be able to recover within a day or two. "You kid didn't die." Wang Feng was in a good mood when he saw Xiao Wu. He looked him up and down and said, "Yeah." Xiao Wu nodded, then patted the great white shark under him and said, "This guy saved me." Wang Feng took a closer look at the great white shark and was surprised. He originally thought that it was just a shark that Xiao Wu caught in the sea. Now he took a closer look and found that it was the king of the great white shark that attacked him with his own tribe. Although the great white shark was controlled by Fang Jiaojiao and attacked them, after all, they killed many great white sharks at that time, and finally forced Fang Jiaojiao to make these great white sharks explode. And whether it is Fang Jiaojiao or Wang Feng, they are all human beings, and the great white shark king's tribe was destroyed because of humans. From this aspect, the great white shark king should hate Wang Feng and his people. How come the great white shark king not only saved Xiao Wu, but also showed no hostility when he saw him? Apocalypse. Communicate with this guy and ask what's going on. Wang Feng looked at the great white shark king and said. Hearing Wang Feng's words, Apocalypse immediately communicated with the great white shark king, and Wang Feng understood how Xiao Wu was rescued. When the great white shark group exploded collectively, there happened to be a great white shark on the left of Xiao Wu. He didn't even have time to react, and was blown away by the impact of the great white shark's explosion. Moreover, Xiao Wu was stunned by the huge impact force, and his body was thrown far away. At the moment when Fang Jiaojiao was shot and his mind was relaxed, the great white shark king got rid of Fang Jiaojiao's control and tore her apart. When he left, he just saw Xiao Wu, who was in a coma. Sharks are very smart creatures, and after becoming a mutant, the Great White Shark King has a very high mind. It immediately recognized that this human with a broken body was the one who was attacked by its own tribe just now. Because it was controlled by Fang Jiaojiao's mind, the Great White Shark King could also feel Fang Jiaojiao's hatred for these people, especially in the end. He was able to get rid of the woman's control because of Wang Feng's arrow. So the Great White Shark King did not have a deep hatred for them as Wang Feng guessed, but was grateful to them, because if it weren't for Wang Feng's arrow, he might have been controlled by the human who destroyed his tribe. For the Great White Shark King, who has a high level of intelligence, not only can he not take revenge, but he also has to use his body as a mount for his enemy to help her do things. This is undoubtedly a very painful experience. However, this guy's accomplice helped him get rid of this situation, so the Great White Shark King directly carried Xiao Wu, who was sinking into the sea, on his back and then went away. This is why Wang Feng and his team searched the nearby sea area and did not find Xiao Wu. From this point of view, animals are sometimes more reasonable than humans. If they follow human thinking, perhaps Wang Feng and his team will still be the enemies of the Great White Shark King, because no matter what the reason, if there were no Wang Feng and his team, their own tribe would not have perished. Because of the rescue of the Great White Shark King, Xiao Wu was able to survive. After waking up, Xiao Wu gradually understood his situation. As a mutant creature, although he could not communicate freely with the Great White Shark King like Apocalypse, he could barely understand the other party's meaning. Therefore, Xiao Wu asked the Great White Shark King to take him to the South Continent. Because he was seriously injured by the previous shark explosion, Xiao Wu guessed that even if Wang Feng and his companions were still alive, they would not be much better than him. The sea area where the battle took place was very close to the South Continent, so Xiao Wu thought that Wang Feng and his companions would go to the South Continent to rest first, and that's when he happened to find Wang Feng on the road. However, when Tiankai communicated with the king of Great White Sharks, Xiao Wu's face was not good looking, because he only found Wang Feng, and the other people, not even Huan, were by Wang Feng's side. Xiao Wu knew what this situation meant without even thinking about it. He just hoped that those who disappeared could be like himself, only temporarily missing and not really dead. However, Xiao Wu also knew that this hope was very slim. He was lucky and happened to be met by the king of Great White Sharks who was leaving. However, there was only one king of Great White Sharks, and the others, even if they were not blown up by the impact of the self-destruction, death, after sinking to the bottom of the sea, is also a dead end. After understanding what happened and the king of Great White Sharks' thoughts, Wang Feng breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked Apocalypse to once again create a potion that was all the source of life and threw it into the mouth of the Great White Shark. It saved Xiao Wu. For Wang Feng, let alone the source of life, even the core of life, Wang Feng is willing to give. Later, Wang Feng noticed Xiao Wu's gloomy look and couldn't help but be stunned. Then he looked around and understood Xiao Wu's thoughts, so he quickly explained the whereabouts of Qiu Jian and the others, and told number 7 where he was now. The situation was also stated. When he heard that Qiu Jian and the others were already on their way back to Dongzhou continent, and that no team members had suffered any losses, Xiao Wu was truly relieved. However, when he learned that Wang Feng was hesitating about what choice he should make. When he came, Xiao Wu looked at Wang Feng seriously and said, "Brother Feng, tell me first, how long can number 7 hold on there?" Wang Feng was stunned, and then replied, "About 45 days, Apocalypse has already said that when the wormhole is completely formed and an energy tide occurs, it will completely swallow up number 7, so this time should still be accurate." "That's right. If you don't hurry up and return to Dongzhou continent and waste time here, is it because you don't want to save No 7, Xiao Wu asked seriously. "What do you mean?" Wang Feng was a little confused. Xiao Wu shook his head and said, "Brother Feng, sometimes you are indeed indecisive. You don't want to lose anyone around you. This is your advantage. It is also because of this that so many of us are willing to stay with you no matter how dangerous it is. I will never leave. Number 7, the devourer, must be willing to risk everything to save you because of your character, even at the risk of losing his own eternal life. Number 7 cried, didn't I think of it at the time, ... But this is also your flaw. Everything needs to be paid for. I remember Brother Chen told me that in the army, there is such a saying, in war, there is no sacrifice. There is no victory. I have never been a soldier, so I don't know if this is true, but I know that this sentence makes sense. We are in a war now, and each of us may die. Brother Zhao Ziaoan and those soldiers who protect the Legion, they are proof. So you can't regard everyone's lives as your own responsibility. Besides, even if you return to number 7 now, what can you do? Watch him for 45 days, and then die with him? Does this make sense? Since there are still 45 days, why don't you return to Dongzhou continent immediately and help Chris conduct his experiment? If within this period of time, you can unlock the mysterious seal in your body and improve your own strength, maybe, it's possible to save number 7. At least, it's better than staying here and hesitating, right? Xiao Wu's words gave Wang Feng an enlightenment. Yes. Chris. If he could break the seal and improve his strength, then he might really be able to find a way to save number 7. Why didn't he think of it? Wang Feng didn't know that he had been putting too much pressure on himself, which made him a little constrained. As Qiu Jian said, sometimes, he thought that the right approach would make things worse. Trouble. Just like Fang Jiaoxiao, if Wang Feng had killed her back in Jianguan town, then what happened at sea would not have happened this time. But if that was the case, he would not have been able to discover the insect hole, so there are some things that I really can't tell whether they are right or wrong. Maybe they are just destined. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 607. After Xiao Wu's words, Wang Feng finally made up his mind. After nodding, Wang Feng first communicated with Tiankai in his heart and asked Tiankai to promise the Great White Shark King to send him and Xiao Wu back to the East Continent. The reward was naturally the source of life. The Great White Shark King was also eager for the source of life, especially now that it had lost its own tribe. In addition to its strong strength, the Great White Shark was able to dominate the ocean mainly because of its tribe. Nearly 100 Great White Sharks swarmed up, enough to tear apart any enemy, and now, the Great White Shark King was left with only himself. It was a bit dangerous to imagine running rampant in the ocean as before. Especially because of the previous unscrupulous killing, the Great White Shark almost became the public enemy of the ocean. So now even if Wang Feng did not promise the source of life, the Great White Shark King would not easily leave Wang Feng and his protection. As for leaving the sea area and going to Jianguan town, it was exactly what the Great White Shark King wanted, because his enemies were basically in the deep sea, and it was naturally safer near the sea. Now that Wang Feng and Xiao Wu were by his side, the danger of reaching the East Continent was naturally greatly reduced, so the Great White Shark King agreed without any hesitation. After knowing that the Great White Shark King agreed to cooperate with him, Wang Feng jumped out of the sea and came to the back of the Great White Shark, and then said, "Let's go." With the Great White Shark King, the speed of returning to the East Continent was greatly improved. In fact, the speed of the Great White Shark King in the sea even exceeded that of the whale. After all, the Great White Shark is the overlord of the ocean and relies on hunting other marine creatures for food, so the speed must be fast. And since there is this Great White Shark King, Wang Feng's previous plan to land on the land closest to him in the East Continent and then return by land was naturally changed directly. So now Wang Feng and his team's goal, like Qiu Jian and his team, is Jianguan town. However, although the Great White Shark is very fast, because the whale set off in advance, and Qiu Jian and his team have been urging the whale to speed up, Wang Feng and his team did not catch up with Qiu Jian and his team until they saw the land of Jianguan town. Seeing Wang Feng coming, and Xiao Wu was also there, Qiu Jian and his team were naturally overjoyed, especially Qingxun and Qian, who directly threw themselves on Xiao Wu. The three zombie guys cried and laughed, making a mess. The method of landing is still to stop at the nearest position to the seaside, and then everyone got on the hurricane and rode the hurricane to the shore. As for the king of great white sharks and the whale, they have reached an alliance agreement under the communication of Tiankai. In the future, these two marine mutant beasts will stay near the sea area of Jianguan town to protect Jianguan town. After giving the two mutant beasts the source of life, Wang Feng and his team finally landed on the mainland and headed towards the Hope Base. After leaving for so long, I don't know how the Hope Base is now. Seeing the familiar pine tree in Jianguan town, Wang Feng couldn't help laughing. He jumped off the hurricane and ran towards the pine tree. Xiao Song, do you still recognize me? Wang Feng didn't get too close to the pine tree, but shouted loudly from a distance. He was afraid that Xiao Song didn't recognize him. He didn't want to become a hedgehog if he gave him a bunch of pine needles. Xiao Song gently swung his huge body, and the branches and leaves swayed, as if greeting Wang Feng. Ha ha! You still recognize me? Jianguan town is in your hands. And that whale and that great white shark are our own people. If they come ashore, don't attack them. Wang Feng waved at the pine tree and smiled, but he didn't know if Xiao Song understood what he said, but he didn't let Tiankai communicate with Xiao Song. After all, this tree belonged to Li Yingning. Wang Feng didn't intend to make decisions on his own, and the possibility of the king of great white sharks and the whale coming ashore was not high. After saying goodbye to Xiao Song, Wang Feng returned to the top of the hurricane. Zhang Ruhao drove the hurricane towards the green water garden without Wang Feng saying anything. Looking back at the long defense wall of Jianguan town, Wang Feng felt infinite emotion in his heart. The defense wall was built to prevent marine mutant beasts. Of course, Fang Jiaojiao was one of the main reasons. But now, this defense wall that consumed a lot of manpower and material resources of the Hope Base seems to be of little use. Fang Jiaojiao is dead. As for the marine mutant beasts, with great white sharks and whales here, it is estimated that no mutant beasts can escape them and come to the shore. However, it has been built anyway, so it is naturally impossible to demolish it. Besides, who knows whether the Devourer will launch an attack on the Hope Base from here in the future. At this time, at the headquarters of the Hope Base, at the gate of the Green Water Garden, a large pile of flowers were arranged in a huge heart shape. Next to it was a purple-haired young man, who was standing behind the flowers, holding a large loudspeaker and reciting a love poem. It seemed that he was chasing a beauty in the Hope Base. Behind this purple-haired young man, there stood a group of young men and women, all of them were probably in their 20s or 30s, all dressed very strangely, and looked basically the same as the street thugs before the end of the world. This purple-haired young man was the one Meng Fei had met in Tiandu City, the one who had wanted to kill Meng Fei. The highest leader of Tiandu City, Commander Lu Hongtao, was his grandfather. At the beginning, Lu Hongtao told Meng Fei that he wanted to send an observation group to the Hope Base to learn from its experience. Meng Fei agreed to Lu Hongtao at that time, and the purple-haired young man who got the news also pestered to come. The purple-haired young man's name is Lu Fei. His father also served in Lu Hongtao's army. However, an accident occurred during an operation and he had already died, leaving only Lu Fei as the only child. Out of guilt for his son, and because Lu Fei was the only descendant of their Lu family, Lu Hongtao always doted on Lu Fei and did not let him join the army. Because Lu Hongtao's reputation in the military was quite high, he was basically second to none, so before the end of the world, Lu Fei was a dandy. Relying on Lu Hongtao's power, he was rampant in Tiandu City. No one dared to provoke him. He brought a group of friends all day long, eating, drinking, and having fun. After entering the apocalypse, their temperaments did not change much. Even after settling down, their lives gradually returned to the state before the apocalypse. Except that the food and resources were far less than before the apocalypse, everything else seemed to be no different to them. Just look at how they can still use racing as a game to pass the time in the apocalypse with scarce resources, and you can know how much Lu Hongtao dotes on his grandson. At the beginning, because he saw that Meng Fei and his friends were not simple, Lu Hongtao ordered Lu Fei to be put in solitary confinement on the spot to calm Meng Fei and his friends' anger. At the same time, his friends also suffered. However, not long after Meng Fei and his friends left, Lu Fei and his friends were released. After being released, Lu Fei did not receive any punishment and continued to live his previous life comfortably in the inner city. However, when some representatives selected by Lu Hongtao and his friends formed an observation group and prepared to go to the Hope base, they were seen by Lu Fei. When Lu Fei learned that they were going to another base that was said to be better than theirs, he was tempted. Although the inner city was more comfortable, they had already lost interest in it after living there for so long. And because they had always thought that zombies were still rampant outside and dangerous, they had never dared to go out. Now that they heard that it was safe outside and there were other places to play, and it was said to be better than theirs, Lu Fei immediately discussed with his friends and prepared to go to the Hope base together. Those friends naturally agreed, but when Lu Fei went to Lu Hongtao and said that they also wanted to join the observation group, Lu Hongtao immediately refused. He knew what kind of character his grandson was. It was fine in Tiandu City, after all, it was his territory and he could protect him. If he went to someone else's base, he might suffer a loss or even be killed. Especially now that they didn't know the true strength of the Hope base, they didn't know if they could afford to provoke it, especially this time the observation group went to the Hope base with some ulterior motives. In Lu Hongtao's view, his base, whether good or bad, is always the orthodoxy of the country, and he is also the head of the national military before the end of the world. If there are a large number of soldiers in the Hope base, perhaps his name can still be useful there. If he can subdue a group of such soldiers, the days of Tiandu City will seem to be better. Especially after knowing the existence of the Devourer, Lu Hongtao and other senior executives of the Tiandu base are more eager to have a large number of powerful people join them to protect Tiandu City. However, in order to stabilize the situation in Tiandu City, Lu Hongtao did not intend to go to the Hope base in person. Even if he wanted to go, at least he had to go there first to find out the situation of the Hope base. As for his grandson, of course, he could not go there. However, Lu Fei, who was rejected by Lu Hongtao, did not give up his idea. Anyway, he basically never took Lu Hongtao's words seriously and always went in and out on the left. So, after being rejected by Lu Hongtao, he discussed with his friends and decided to find a way to go to the Hope base. With the abilities of these Prince Sealings, it was effortless for them to find out the location of the Hope base. In particular, they confirmed that there seemed to be no danger on the road from Tiandu City to the Hope base. So, on the second day after the observation group set out, these Prince Sealings quietly slipped out of Tiandu City and headed towards the Hope base. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 608. Because Lu Fei and the others were faster, Ken quickly caught up with the observation group that had set out before. The leader of the observation group, commander of the Tiandu Armed Forces Department Cai Jianren, couldn't help but feel strange when he saw Lu Fei and the others, because according to his understanding, shouldn't Lu Hongtao let these Prince Sealings go to the Hope base now? However, since the Prince Sealings had long been unified by Lu Fei, who unanimously claimed that Lu Hongtao allowed them to join the observation group and go to the Hope base, Cai Jianren had no choice, especially among these people. There was also his nephew, so he had to take them with him. They went to the Hope base together. Along the way, they also encountered several waves of Hope warriors who were searching for supplies and survivors. These warriors, all of whom had reached the strength of the awakened, shocked everyone in the observation group. Especially after chatting with these hope warriors and finding out that they were not the main army, but a second-line army that was only responsible for searching for supplies and rescuing survivors, these people were almost going crazy with jealousy. Look at other people, even the awakened ones have to be picky. Those who don't meet the requirements can't even join the main army and can only do some odd jobs. What about you? Not to mention just one army, there is no distinction between the first and second lines. Even the awakened ones can't be found in total. If the awakened people on our side are all offered as treasures, then the awakened people here are basically no different from Chinese cabbage. And looking at the actions of these awakened people, you know that these people are definitely after formal military training. They are not the kind of ragtag group they imagined that could fight fiercely based on their own strength. However, this situation gave the people in this observation group some confidence. As long as they were regular soldiers, there was a way to turn them into their own troops. Now Commander Lu Hongtao of Kyoto City, even before the end of the world, no soldier would not know his name. After the end of the world, he is the highest commander of the army who is still alive. No matter what age, soldiers will always be soldiers. Although it is the end of the world, Cai Jianren did not believe that those soldiers would ignore Lu Hongtao's orders when they brought Lu Hongtao out. But what Cai Jianren doesn't know is that these soldiers did receive formal military training, but they only received it after the end of the world, not before the end of the world, so most of them are not regular soldiers. Even if they are regarded as soldiers, that is, it begins after the end of the world. Moreover, even before the end of the world, Instructor Li Yingning's reputation in the army was not comparable to that of Lu Hongtao. Lu Hongtao was at best a senior official in the military department, while Li Yingning and the assassins under his command were respected by all soldiers. Idle. Moreover, the reputations of Li Yingning and An Qi are extremely resounding in the military circles all over the world, while Lu Hongtao's name is only relatively well known in the domestic military circles. When it comes to other countries, it is only a few names at most. The intelligence services or senior officials of some hostile countries will know about him. However, after knowing that these people are soldiers, the advantage for the observation group is that they have a certain confidence, so their demeanor seems to have a certain momentum. After arriving at the Black Dragon Bridge, since the hopeful warriors followed the observation group and they were all humans, the guards on the Black Dragon Bridge directly connected the Black Dragon Bridge and let them in without even asking. Hope Base. Looking at the automatically retractable Black Dragon Bridge and the rushing Black Dragon River below, the viewing group looked envious. This is definitely a perfect natural chasm. At least for zombies, as long as the bridge deck is disconnected, no matter how big the zombie tide is, there is no way to cross the Black Dragon River and enter the Hope Base. Not to mention that there are a large number of tanks and artillery on the opposite side, staring at the other side. Such an ideal terrain is indeed the most suitable for human beings to establish a base in the end of the world. After crossing the Black Dragon Bridge, the viewing group was once again shocked by the large areas of farmland and breeding farms, especially the farmers working in the farmland. After the viewing group looked over, they found that all of them were evolutionaries or above. Strength. Shouldn't evolved people join the army? Only strengthened people should farm and do the most menial work. And why do all these farming survivors seem so happy? Everyone in the observation group looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. Cai Jianren took a deep breath and then said to the people around him, "Everyone, be careful. This base is very powerful. In the end, it's best not to offend them. We'll wait until we find out what's going on here." Then he looked at Li Fei and the others, and continued, "If we offend their people here, we won't be able to get them back, so everyone should keep a low profile and remember that we are here to investigate the situation. Let's talk about it when we get back." He was specifically reminding Li Fei and the others, but when Li Fei and the others saw that the Hope Base actually raised mutant beasts, their eyes couldn't help but shine. Meat was a very rare thing for them. The last time they ate meat, I don't even remember when it happened. Although survivors often starve to death or die for other reasons in the outer city of Tiandu City, few people dare to eat human flesh. Those corpses are all used to feed their pets. Seeing that Li Fei and the others didn't pay attention to what he said and kept staring at the mutant beasts, Cai Jianren sighed in his heart. He had an ominous premonition that this group of Prince Sealinks would bring him a lot of trouble this time. Uncle Cai, when you meet the leader of this base later, can you ask for a few of these mutant beasts for us first? Li Fei said with a swallow. Let's talk about it after we meet the people. Cai Jianren nodded, then looked forward. A team of about 500 people was coming towards them, so he said, "Don't talk, I will communicate with them." The leader of this team was Luo Kaiying, a bearded man, because the Hope Warriors who escorted the observation group did not cross the bridge and returned directly after arriving at the Black Dragon Bridge. The Hope Corps in the Hope Base took over the rest. After receiving a report from the guards of Black Dragon Bridge, saying that a Tiandu City observation group had arrived, Luo Kaiying, who was closest to them, volunteered to meet the observation group, because no one knew what the hell this observation group was, but since they mentioned Meng Fei's name, they must have seen them. Duan Lei and Lu Qiang and others at the headquarters didn't care. They were now preparing for the upcoming Devourer army. Who had time to care about the observation group? This is not before the end of the world, what the hell is there to observe? Although they also knew Tiandu City and could vaguely guess the approximate identities of these people, it was the end of the world now. Using the identity before the end of the world to pressure people? It would definitely not work in the Hope Base. So Duan Lei and others didn't pay any attention to them at all, and didn't even say to send someone from the headquarters. When they heard Luo Kaiying say that he was at a nearby farm, they directly asked Luo Kaiying to come. Hey! You, are the ones. Luo Kaiying shouted loudly when he came up, but he suddenly forgot the name of the observation group and turned around to ask the Hope Warrior behind him, what are they? The Hope Warrior behind him couldn't help but frown. Asking someone what they are in front of them? This kind of thing is probably something that only Luo Kaiying can do. Tiandu City Observation Group, said a Hope Warrior. Oh. That's right. Tiandu City Observation Group. Luo Kaiying turned around and looked at the group of people in front of him and said, Tiandu City, are you from Tiandu City? Hello. We are all from Tiandu City. I am Cai Jianren, the commander of the armed forces, and this is Shi Hokai, the deputy commander of the Freedom Corps, and this is... Cai Jianren stepped forward and began to introduce himself. Okay, Luo Kaiying waved his hand impatiently and said, I have a bad memory. I can't even remember the name of your regiment. Why do you tell me so many names? Just tell me what you are here for. Cai Jianren's face changed. Luo Kaiying's words were quite impolite, but this guy is like this. He is always like this when he meets anyone. But the problem is that Cai Jianren doesn't know. He couldn't help but frown. Hey. This is Commander Cai of our Armed Forces Department. You should be careful when you speak. A guy behind Cai Jianren saw that Cai Jianren was a little embarrassed, and hurriedly stood up and said. Tisk. He is not my commander again, why should I be careful when I speak? If you want to put on the airs of a commander, go back to your place, don't do this in our Hope Base. No matter who you are, you will be under our control when you come here. Are you not used to it? Okay. Go back to where you came from. Luo Kaiying rolled his eyes and said carelessly. This guy is rough but meticulous. From Duan Lei's attitude towards this observation group, he roughly knew what Duan Lei meant, so he did it on purpose. Luo Kaiying certainly knew where Tiandu City was, and could imagine who came from there. Without Duan Liming telling him, Luo Kaying knew that these birds were here to grab food, so naturally he would not treat them well. It would be best if they could not stand his attitude and just left, which would save them the trouble. After all, they had come to the Hope Base and many people had seen them, so it would be a bit bad to drive them away. Meng Fei actually thought of the key point, but it was only because the survivors he saw in the outer city did make him feel that the Hope Base seemed to need to help those people, so he agreed to this dispatch group. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 609. However, after Meng Fei agreed to dispatch the team, he did not immediately send someone to tell the Hope Base about the situation, because he felt that if Duan Lei heard that these people were coming from Tiandu City and agreed to let them come, he would definitely think about what happened in the middle. As long as Duan Lei chatted with the people in the dispatch group, he should be able to discover those things. However, what Meng Fei didn't expect was that the first person to come into contact with the observation group was Luo Kaying, a stupid young man. Fortunately, Cai Jianren has been in a high position for so many years, so he naturally has the ability to keep his emotions and anger hidden. Of course, he will not be angered by such small things, so he suppressed the anger in his heart and waved his hand to stop the person behind him from continuing to speak. Haha. What this gentleman is saying is that as the locals do as the Romans do, we are outsiders, so we naturally need to abide by the rules here. Cai Jianren laughed and said. Cai's incompetence in handling his subordinates made me laugh. You don't need to be familiar with him. Your conversation is good, so you won't care about people like this. Cai Jianren was cunning and cunning. When he saw that Luo Kaying seemed unfriendly to him, he became polite and used quite elegant sentences. However, in his words, he also expressed his dissatisfaction with Luo Kaying's way of speaking. It was a pity that the person he was talking to was Luo Kaying. Saying these words was almost the same as playing the piano to a cow. He would understand if he directly scolded him, but if you turned around, that would be less certain. Luo Kaying, a bastard, was a little dazed by Cai Jianren's docile words. He scratched Guan Qi Jianren's head, turned around with a puzzled look and asked, what did this old guy mean just now? Didn't he say he was called a bitch, human? Why are you laughing again? The warriors of hope who followed Luo Kaying all turned red in the face. They wanted to laugh but didn't dare. They were holding it in very hard, and no one answered his words. However, Luo Kaying's voice was loud, and he did not lower his voice when he spoke, so naturally Cai Jianren and the others heard Luo Kaying's words clearly. Although Cai Jianren's face remained calm, he was extremely angry in his heart. His name is indeed awkward, but when he was born, the word bitch was not so popular, and his father naturally did not realize that the name he gave his son would have another meaning. By the time the word bitch became popular, Cai Jianren was already in a high position. Of course, no one dared to mention it in front of him. Even after the end of the world, Luo Kaying was the first person who dared to directly say that he was a bitch in front of him. Excuse me, Captain Meng Fei, is he the person you want from the base? Cai Jianren did not use the formal words this time, and asked directly, but his face did not show his anger, and even his tone was quite so peaceful that you can't fault it. Lao Meng. He's one of ours. I heard he asked you to come, Luo Kaying said unhappily as she didn't get the answer she wanted. Captain Meng Fei has been to our Tiandu City base, chatted with our chief for a while, and also introduced your Hope base, so our chief sent us here. We hope to visit the Hope base and learn from your side. Regarding the management model, I don't know if Captain Meng Fei's promise to us will work in your Hope base. Cai Jianren simply pulled Meng Fei out and told him his purpose under his banner. Anyway, Meng Fei did agree to them at that time. Now that he told them this, no matter what the other party did, he couldn't say that Meng Fei's words were not effective. Although Meng Fei told them that he was just the deputy captain of a brigade, in Cai Jianren's understanding, being able to serve as the deputy captain of the 1st Brigade in the main army should have a certain weight. Although the guy in front of him also led, there are hundreds of people, and they are all awakened people, but their status in the Hope base will definitely not be higher than that of Meng Fei. If I say this, even if the other party doesn't want to receive my party, they won't kick them out. As long as they can stay, it's not a wasted trip. Humph. We hope people from the base can speak, of course it will work. Luo Kaying snorted coldly. However, you can look at it as you like, but you can't enter the headquarters. Only official members of the base we hope can enter. As for other places, you can take a look if you want. If you don't understand something, just ask someone. But you can't disturb their work, and you are not allowed to steal anything. Otherwise, our law enforcement team will not be polite. Steal something? Hearing Luo Kaying's words, Cai Jianren almost fainted. How could people like him be suspected of stealing? Do they look like that? But after turning around and taking a look, Cai Jianren found that Lu Fei and the others were still staring at the captive mutant beasts, almost drooling. Seeing their appearance, for a moment, even Cai Jianren was very agree with what Luo Kaying said. However, due to Lu Fei's status, Cai Jianren's words had no effect on them at all. Lu Fei ignored Lu Hongtao's words. Who was he, Cai Jianren? Thank you then. However, can you please find someone to help us lead the way? It would be bad if we are new here and if we go wrong or do something we shouldn't do and cause misunderstanding. Cai Jianren thought for a while and said to Luo Kaying. Seeing the expressions of Lu Fei and the others now, Cai Jianren was quite worried. These guys would directly steal some mutant beasts in a while. It would be best to let the people from the Hope base follow. Maybe they can tone it down a bit. First team. Get out. Hearing Cai Jianren's words, Luo Kaying frowned. After thinking for a moment, she turned back and shouted to the Hope soldiers behind her. Brush. 50 Hope warriors stood up in unison, moving in unison, all raising their heads and looking at Luo Kaying. Follow them. Show them what they want to see. If you want to know anything, you can answer it. If you have any questions, keep in touch at any time, Luo Kaying said to these Hope warriors carelessly. Yes, there was another military salute, and the 50 Hope warriors answered in unison. Okay. I'll leave it to you then. I'll take them for a walk in Jianguan town. Luo Kaying waved her hands, and then shouted, let's go. Without saying goodbye to Cai Jianren and the others, she just left. Go. Cai Jianren didn't care about Luo Kaying's attitude. In fact, his eyes were now attracted by these Hope warriors. Such a neat formation, let alone theirs, even before the end of the world, only the honor guard could do it, right? Excuse me, do you belong to the Hope Legion or the Guardian Legion? Since he had chatted with the Hope soldiers when he came here, Cai Jianren also had some understanding of the Legion organization of the Hope base. He knew that the Guardian Legion was the main legion, and the Legion of Hope is the second-line army. We are a patrol law enforcement team, affiliated with the Hope Legion. A Hope soldier standing at the front replied. Hiss, Cai Jianren took a breath of air. Such an elite force is actually the second-line army of the Hope base? Real or fake? Of course, Cai Jianren didn't know that after another reorganization, the current Guardian Legion and Hope Legion were no longer as different as before. At least, the strength of the warriors of these two legions had reached the level of awakened ones. Now the only criterion for joining the Guardian Legion has been changed from being trained by Li Yingning to being a fire attribute awakener or a defensive attribute awakener. Especially now, the imminent arrival of the Devourer army is no longer a secret to the warriors of the two armies of Guardian and Hope, So even those who have not completed Li Yingning's training before are still spending their spare time every day, training hard. Li Yingning had nothing to do if he stayed in the base. In addition, his identity was already known to Duan Lei and others, so he no longer kept it a secret. For those soldiers who had not passed before, he would often pull some over and continue. Train them. After such a long time, all the warriors who had failed to pass before had passed the training. Even Li Yingning was a little surprised by this result. In the end, he could only attribute this almost miraculous event to Devourer. Broad pressure. As for the smallest number of awakened people with the thunder attribute, they were all assigned to Duan Lei by Wang Feng. Now the total number has reached more than 500. These more than 500 awakened people with the thunder attribute are probably the real ones in the Hope base now. The strongest combat power. After all, Duan Lei, who is known as the reincarnation of the god of war, is here. If he cooperates with these 500 thunder attribute awakeners, the power exerted will definitely increase tenfold and 100-fold. Especially these 500 people, who stay in the headquarters every day now. No matter how busy Duan Lei is, he will spare at least an hour to practice cooperating with them, using his unique numbering command method, to train these soldiers. It is no exaggeration to say that even Wang Feng's team would probably be scorched on the outside and black on the inside if they fought against these guys. However, this team named Thunderstorm Team by Duan Lei is the top secret of the Hope base. Even the Hope Warriors and Guardian Warriors know very little about their strength. They only know that some guys have been transferred to the military advisor. Went as a guard. Regarding Cai Jianren's surprise, the Hope Warrior didn't show any expression at all. He just looked at Cai Jianren and asked lightly. "Where are you going? What do you want to know? You can tell me now so that I can arrange a sightseeing route." Doomsday Special Forces. Author, Huanjing Chengzhu. Chapter 610. Sightseeing. The words of this soldier of hope almost made Cai Jianren fall to the ground. Are all the people in this base like this? However, looking at the serious and innocent expression of the soldier of hope, Cai Jianren opened his mouth and finally said helplessly. "We are here to learn from your base and want to see everything, so please take us around wherever we can go." "Follow me," the soldier of hope nodded, then waved his hand, and the other soldiers of hope dispersed directly, protecting their observation group well among them. "This is a farm, where we grow food. There are probably about 5,000 farms like this in our base. This is the farm residential area. This one is relatively small, with only about 5,000 people living here. This is a livestock farm, where we raise some domesticated mutants to provide us with meat. This is..." Whenever they walked through a site, the leading Hope Warrior would always explain the purpose of the site, the staffing, etc., and he also explained it in detail. After 5 or 6 hours of walking, these Hope Warriors took the observation group to visit all the places they could go. Perhaps because there were these Hope Warriors with awakened strength following them, the Prince Sealing seemed to be more honest along the way. However, everything they saw in the Hope base made them feel extremely envious. Although they were all high-level figures in the base of Tiandu City, they all lived a pampered life. But now that they have arrived at the Hope base, compared with the people living here, they suddenly feel that they are living a life like beggars. Isn't it? Look at the Hope base, which has basically restored life before the end of the world. There are even shops in the farm where cigarettes and alcohol are sold. However, money is not used for transactions here, but something called points is used. After the sightseeing process was over, Cai Jianren carefully said to the Hope Warrior, "Thank you for taking us on a sightseeing trip, but I have another request. I wonder if we can meet your leader." The Hope Warrior seemed to have known that he would have this request long ago. There was no surprise on his face, but he did not answer immediately. Instead, He picked up the intercom and told Caigenren's request to the inside. Not long after, there was an echo from inside, but because the Hope Warrior was wearing headphones, Caigenren could not hear the content at all. "Come with me." The military advisor said that he could let you go to the headquarters to take a look and meet you. By the way, the Hope Warrior said to Caigenren, and then continued to lead the way ahead. Arriving at the gate of the Green Water Garden, looking at the high wall surrounding the Green Water Garden, Caigenren sighed again. He originally thought that although the Hope base was much better than the Tiandu City base in every way, at least in terms of defense, it should not be as good as the Tiandu City. This place just occupies a good location and happens to have the Black Dragon River, but the defense of their headquarters should not be comparable to the inner city of Tiandu City. After all, as the capital, the resource reserves of Tiandu City are definitely not comparable to this low-level city. But now he realized that he was too confident. Not to mention this defensive wall that far exceeds Tiandu City, even the defense on those residential buildings is enough to kill the defense system of Tiandu City in seconds. You know, when the Hope base was first established, the resource reserves were indeed not as good as Tiandu City, but in the later period, how many cities did the Hope base sweep? So many materials were almost all used to build the defense facilities of the Hope base, and now of course it is far beyond Tiandu City. The Hope Warrior who led the way said a few more words to the intercom, and then the gate of the Green Water Garden opened, and the observation group followed the Hope Warrior and walked into the Green Water Garden together. When they saw the huge willow tree and beehive in the central square, as well as the giant mutant bees flying around, Caigenren and his observation group felt that they had nothing to be surprised about. Because this Hope base is simply the creator of miracles, it seems that everything that happens here is taken for granted. Duanlei and Lu Qiang, as well as Lu Wanting and Shen Yishan, were standing at the door of the clubhouse chatting. Seeing the Hope Warrior coming with the observation group, Duanlei took the lead and walked over. "Report to the military advisor, Zhao Jihong, the captain of the 1st Squad of the 9th Brigade of the Hope Corps, reports to you. I have been ordered to lead the Tiandu City Observation Group to inspect the Hope base. They are the Tiandu City Observation Group. They have completed the inspection at the Hope base. Now the mission is completed. Please give instructions." The leading Hope Warrior saluted Duanlei and said loudly, "Thank you for your hard work. You guys go and get busy. Just leave them to me." Duanlei returned a military salute and nodded. "Yes." Zhao Jihong saluted again, then turned around and left with his team members. "Hello. I am." Caigenren walked up and introduced himself to Duanlei again, but because of the previous example of Luo Keiying, he only introduced his name, did not say his position and rank, and did not introduce other people, which seemed very brief. "Hello. I am Duanlei, the current person in charge of the Hope base." Duanlei nodded and said, "Come in and talk." After speaking, Duanlei pointed to the club, then turned around and walked inside first. Although Lu Qiang and others were chatting with Duanlei at the door just now, when Duanlei came to greet these people, they did not follow them together. Instead, they went back to the club and went about their own business. After entering the club and sitting down in the lobby of the club, Duanlei spoke first, "Mr. Cai. I hope you have seen the base. I wonder if you can tell me about the situation of your Tiandu City base." Caigenren was stunned for a moment, and then immediately nodded in agreement. He originally thought that Duanlei and the others would not be interested in their Tiandu City. Would people who were used to living in villas ask about the structure of the basement? But since Duanlei asked, Caigenren didn't hide anything. After recalling what Mengfei had seen, he told them all. Their people had already seen it anyway, so there was no point in hiding it. As for what Mengfei didn't see, Caigenren said some selectively. It wasn't until more than an hour later that Caigenren finished everything. After listening to Caigenren's words, Duanlei finally understood Mengfei's intention. After he lowered his head and thought for a moment, he raised his head and said, "Mr. Cai, we are all human beings, especially now that human beings are still facing huge crises. I think, since you have met Meng Fei, you should know about the Devourer, right?" "Yes. Of course we know," Cai Jianren nodded quickly. "Since we know, I won't say more," Duan Lei said, "because we hope that the base will also be preparing for the arrival of the Devourer army during this period, so it is very busy. But as I said just now, we are all human beings, and we belong to the same nation, so if there is anything we need help from the Tiandu city base, we can directly ask it. If we can help, we will do our best." "We don't have meat to eat there," Lu Fei said immediately after hearing this. Cai Jianren suddenly felt embarrassed. He didn't expect that when people asked what he needed, this idiot was the first to say this. Isn't this too embarrassing? Not only Cai Jianren, but also the Prince Sealings, after hearing Lu Fei's words, quickly turned around and looked around, as if we didn't recognize him. "This is the grandson of our commander. His name is Li Fei." Cai Jianren quickly took it and said, "What this grandson means is, we have a larger population over there, and most of the reserves before the end of the world have rotted and deteriorated, so there is a bit of food shortage." After finishing speaking, Cai Jianren seemed to feel that something was wrong. When he looked back, Lu Fei was looking at him with an annoyed look on his face, and then he woke up. "Damn. Because I was impatient just now, after introducing Lu Fei, I just said this grandson." Fortunately, Lu Fei only glared at him, did not speak, and made no other actions, which made Cai Jianren feel a little relieved, but he knew that when he returned to Tiancheng base, he would definitely be troubled by his grandson. "If it's food, I think we should be able to solve some of it, but if the quantity is too much..." Duan Lei frowned and said, "You also know that fuel cannot be mined or refined now. The only things that can be used are the remnants from before the end of the world. It can be said that we use a little bit less. So this transportation is a big problem. If all the transportation is done by manpower, I don't know if you have enough manpower. We here may not be able to allocate any manpower." "There is no problem with this," Cai Jianren said quickly, "we have plenty of people. In terms of transportation, we can leave everything to us." "Yeah. That's good. Because the Hope Base is currently preparing for the Devourer's army, there is a serious shortage of manpower. We don't even have enough people ourselves, so, we really can't mobilize people, which is a shame." Duan Lei nodded and smiled, and continued to point out his lack of manpower calmly. "Hey. Isn't it hard to tell me if you want someone?" At this time, Lu Fei, a grandson with a short memory, interrupted, "We have plenty of people. People die of hunger every day. If you want someone, just come to me and I will lend it to you, just take care of them." From Lu Fei's point of view, those survivors in the outer city play no role at all except wasting food. They lie on the streets of the outer city all day waiting to die. It is better to let them go to the Hope Base and mix with each other. Eating food can also give me a name to stay at the Hope Base. As for why Lu Fei became very active after entering the club and even tried to find a way to stay here, it was not just because there was meat to eat here. Another more important reason was because when he came to the front of the club before, saw Lu Wanting standing at the door,